Hi, I'm Camille, the body interpreter, and this is a series of stretches to help flexibility for the lower back. So one thing that's really important to know, if you have a stiff lower back, or any stiff joints for that matter, it's often stiffness comes about because it's a compensation for instability of a joint. So if you imagine the lower back isn't stabilizing very well, then what the muscles do is they try to lock on in order to create stability, which also creates compression of the joints and pain a lot of the time. But that stability is actually helping us not to injure ourselves. So it is very important, if we start to do lots of stretching and pain is increasing, that might be a sign that we need to do some work on stability as well. So be sure to check that if you're getting some help with stability, or maybe doing my stability for low back exercise video as well in conjunction with all of these. So having said that, there's a few muscle groups that are really important, and they're all around this sort of hip, pelvis, upper thigh area. So I'll take you through a few easy stretches for all of them. Psoas is a pretty well known one, well, in the physio land anyway, for lower backs. So it's a muscle that sits on the inside of the spine in here and pops out. It's one of the hip flexors, and it also tries to stabilize the lower back, bless its cotton socks. So the way that you stretch it is basically tucking the pelvis under right here, and then just leaning forwards ever so slightly until you feel a light strain in the front of the thigh here, or maybe even down a little bit lower. The muscle itself finishes here, but sometimes the tightness in it can be pulled through the fascia as well. So we'll just stretch wherever it's needed. So tucking in, leaning forwards, and then just holding that for a good 30 seconds to a minute, just letting all of those fibers just nicely stretch out. Just make sure you're breathing easily and other areas of your body are relaxed at the same time. This should never feel like a strain. So just keeping that pelvis tucked and lunging forward, just maintaining that stretch. One thing I see people do a lot when they're trying to stretch their psoas is actually lunging all the way forwards. And you see what happens in my lower back. There's this big curve here, and there's no stretch whatsoever going on in my psoas right now because I've lost that flat back. So that's why we always flatten the back, curl the tailbone under first, and then come forwards if the goal is to stretch the psoas. Alrighty, so we'll just change over sides, give that knee a rest. Popping the other foot up, so tucking underneath first with the tailbone, and then giving that little lunge forward till you feel that slight strain in the front. So that's nice. Another thing I should have mentioned on the other side is that if you'd like to increase the stretch, you're welcome to just stretch that same arm with the knee down over and across your body. And that can give you a bit more of a stretch through the side and through the psoas too, if you get the angle right. So just playing with that angle a little bit, forward and back. And just breathing and letting it expand through that area. Just relaxing, but keeping that tailbone tucked under. Beautiful. Alright, and then coming back to center. And now we'll stretch the hamstrings. Hamstrings are really important when it comes to lower back, because if they're tight, they'll force us into this kind of position, which puts our back in a bit of an unnatural curve. So when our hamstrings are a nice length, we tend to have a bit better posture through here. If they're too long, then this can happen sometimes. So just be aware that we don't always need to stretch our hamstrings, but it's very common because that's one way that our body tries to stabilize the lower back. So just popping one foot out straight in front. This is a simple stretch, but remember that when you're coming forward to stretch the hamstring, that you're actually bringing your sternum closer to your knee. The goal isn't to touch the toes. The goal is to get this part as close as you can to this part. And that will create more of a pure stretch of the hamstrings rather than reefing down with your arms. If I'll show you the difference, if I stretch with my hand like this, you'll actually see that my back is doing a lot of the work. It's curving a lot. So if you're going to be stretching and staying in this position for a few minutes, it can actually start to create some problems in here. So just making sure that you're long in the spine and then just leaning forwards as far as feels comfortable. And we'll just rest here for a little while, just breathing out, letting that muscle get longer and longer. And you can, if you do this for a few minutes, you'll actually notice some big changes in the muscle length. So spend a bit of time with it. If you can reach much past your feet with a straight back, you probably don't need to stretch your hamstrings that much. If you can't touch your toes, yeah, it's probably something that will come in handy for you. If you're finding that you actually can't even get a stretch here because it's so stiff, then you can try it in other ways instead. You can maybe lie on your back, put a towel over the top, and then just pull up. That's another way to get a nice pure hamstring stretch without creating any pressure on your back. So you've got two ends of the towel over the top and then just pulling up this direction. All right, so just keeping this stretch for a little bit longer on this one side. And just really listen to your body, just tune in if your back's doing anything or if the sensation in the back of your thigh is changing. If you're getting a strain in the back of your knee, it just means that the nerves are a little bit tight too, which is common with low back pain. So just keeping a nice long spine. About 10 more seconds in this stretch. Breathing easy. Lovely, and then just making your way over to the other side. So changing legs. Finding that nice long spine again. Sternum goes first, and then just leaning into the stretch. And this is all I need at the moment to get my stretch. So once again, if you're not finding that this is stretchy enough for you, try that one lying on your back with the towel around your foot. And we'll just spend a little while here stretching in. And you want to be facing, your shoulders and face need to be facing your leg with this one to get the best hamstring stretch. You might notice if your toes are pointing up this way that it'll pull in your calf a little bit. And once again, that is a nerve stretch. So you can just relax the foot completely. Then you might be able to lean a little bit more into that hamstring stretch. It gets pretty tempting to curve the back. So just keep checking in with that. Have I curved my back? Are you still breathing? As you're doing this, maybe just imagine the muscle fibers that have been so bunched together, just gently stretching out as they do when you give them a nice friendly stretch like this. And just a couple more breaths in this position, just easing into it. All right, and I'll show you a stretch now for the QL, which is a muscle that's very commonly tight with people with low back pain. And it's basically a muscle that runs from our ribs here to the top of our pelvis. And when it clamps on, it can compress the spine. So the way I'm going to do the stretch now is only for people who have quite a stable lower back. So if there's any chance of it blowing out of nowhere, then just don't even try this one. But if yours is pretty good and you really just need this flexibility, this is the best QL stretch that I know of. So essentially we're in this hamstring stretch position again, but instead we're going to put our shoulders in line with our leg. So I like to think of myself as in between two walls or in between two glass panes. And you're just dropping the elbow down towards the inside of that knee and then bringing the top arm up and over and stretching as far as you can. So the goal is to get more room or more distance between these ribs and the top of that hip. So it's a pure side stretch, but because your hips are locked into the floor, then it's a really nice way to get deep into those muscles. And you can just hang out here for a little while. And once again, don't force anything. Okay, this is not a tryout for Cirque du Soleil or the London Ballet or anything. So just keep your chest towards the sky as much as possible. And just breathe and just feel that lovely stretch opening up your side. Imagine daylight hitting the side of your spine for the first time in a long time. Fresh blood flow, fresh nutrients all flowing in, giving new health and vitality to all of those ligaments and muscles. Really opening up through the side, enjoying that for a little bit longer. Beautiful. And then we'll do the same stretch on the other side. So you're going to change legs, extend the other one out. Okay. And then putting your shoulders side on to that leg, dropping the elbow inside, looking behind you, chest almost to the ceiling, and then just stretching up and over with that top arm. Thinking about increasing the space between those ribs and your hip bone. And just easing into it. Don't force it. If it feels painful, come back off of it. Go a little bit slower. Remember to breathe. If you're feeling your body shaking, you might be pushing too hard. So just go soft. You actually get a better improvement in your flexibility if you just go gently, because your body's trusting you more rather than fighting you. Just feel that space opening up all the way down that side, checking that your chest is still relatively facing towards the ceiling. And then just slowly coming back to your original position. So your back might need a little bit of extension now. So just gently lying on your tummy in elbow prop, and you might just move your legs this way just to stretch out the fronts of the thighs a little bit. So if you had trouble or were not able to do that because the back pain is too unstable, there's a way that you can do it standing up, which I might do in, I'll do it now, but you won't be able to see my head, okay? So you just have to imagine my top half. And essentially you are bringing one foot around behind, and then same arm as behind goes up and over, and you're pulling it with your other hand, and then you just lean back a little, lean forward a little, find a good angle to stretch. So it's slightly different, but sometimes you can get a similar benefit. So the goal is to increase the distance from here to here, and being careful not to compress too much through there. So it's not a collapsing on the other side, it's more a lengthening of the side that's being stretched. So the energy or the movement is still going upwards and diagonally in this direction. Alrighty, couple to go. So the insides of the thighs often get really tight and neglected as well. So this one's called frog in yoga. So we're just coming out wide as possible with your knees, and then just propping on your elbows and just stopping here for a minute. Just letting that stretch in the inner thighs. Open up those muscles and give your spine more space to breathe. You might move forward and backwards a little bit and just find a spot that gives you the best stretch. Just linger there and let it open up. It's a lovely stretch to help with hips, pelvis and lower back. You might do all of these stretches for a bit longer than what I've done on this video. Or maybe you don't have quite that much time, so this is just right. But really the very minimum that you want to do for any stretch is 30 seconds. Otherwise it's basically nowhere near as worth it. Not sure on the grammar on that sentence, but you get the idea. All right, just do another 5 or 10 seconds here. Alrighty, and the last one, just coming into a bit of a cross-legged position. So there are a few variations on this. You'll get to see how inflexible my hips are. So you can either just stay in a cross-legged position and just ever so slightly lean forwards, and you'll feel it down in these lower sections here, stretching. Or if you want a little bit extra, you can pop a foot on top of the other knee, and then just do your best to let that one flatten out, which probably ain't gonna happen for me today. Once again, we're not forcing anything here. So if you're feeling a lot of pain, you could get some cushions and put it underneath, or you can just come back to this original position and just with a slight little lean forwards. I say with people, a lot of people who have got heavy stiffness in their lower back, this just wouldn't even be possible. So congratulations if you make it to this position. It's really, really common for this one to be very stiff. Make sure you're breathing. And make sure you're maintaining space in your lower back and really listening to your body. Maybe even closing your eyes. And just sensing where the stretching is, or where the tension is, what your breathing's like, whether there's anywhere in your body you're holding tightness, like your neck or your jaw, where you don't necessarily need to right now. And then just changing sides with the feet. So whether you're in the cross-legged position, you just need to put the other one in front, and then just a slight lean forwards again. So it'll be from here, with a slight lean forwards, keeping a straight back, maintaining that position. Or if you're putting the foot up it goes on top. And then just imagine gravity just sort of weighing down on that knee, wanting it to go downwards, but you should feel a decent stretch in around here. It's still quite comfortable, but just doing its job. Keep long in the spine, keep the shoulders back, sternum's coming up. And just breathe. Let the stretch do its magic. Remember, we're doing this because we love our body. We're not trying to manipulate it or like have an agenda for it to do something else. We're just doing it because this is how we stay healthy. And we care about having a long, healthy life, right? Hopefully. So just letting that stretch continue, opening up all the fascia through the back of the sacrum, back of the hip joint. It's a beautiful stretch. So this is a slight variation on the pigeon stretch. So you might be familiar with this kind of thing. So that's just another kind of way to do it from the yoga world. So you might be more familiar with that, or you might prefer that. This one just has a little bit more of an outwards angle with the knee. So it's a little bit more of a force, I suppose. So, thank you for having a go at this video. I hope it was helpful for you in gaining a little bit of flexibility for your lower back. Please, flexibility happens over time. You're not going to gain a lot of flexibility in a week. It's about repetition, and it's about being gentle with your body. So just take it easy, and I hope to see you soon. Thank you.